All right, so let's get a round of boos for Greenpeace and their Change the Code campaign. That video is one that Carla produced within about an hour and a half of Greenpeace, who was, if you don't know, funded by Ripple co-founder and executive chairman Chris Larson's 5 million petrodollars that he decided to pump into a disinformation campaign about Bitcoin, as his token is and company is under investigation by the SEC. So, well, we can do more in an hour and a half for free than they can do with $5 million, and that's the power of Bitcoin. So, on a different note, we have a pretty awesome panel up next. I think a lot of people are excited for this. So you've all heard of the Chivo wallet. They were instrumental in the rollout of Bitcoin here in El Salvador. Again, if you've probably interacted with it in some way, perhaps just through an ATM. But this next panel is going to go through the first year, give you guys basically a recap. You've maybe heard some good things, some bad things, some things in between. So hopefully this next panel will do an excellent job of clearing a lot of that up. So to moderate this panel, we have Ken Kruger. He's the founder and CEO of Moon, paywithmoon.com, I believe. So please give Ken a warm welcome to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm joined here today by Alex, the CEO of River Financial. And Tristan, who's the Director of Product for Government Payments at Alpha Point. So now, Chivo Wallet came out September 2021, so it's been a little bit over a year. I think everyone's really interested to hear what's been going on, but what we should probably do is understand the players, right? So Tristan, if you can walk us through, who are the various players involved in this? A lot of different groups are involved, and then what is specifically Alpha Point's role?
Yeah, so Alpha Point, traditionally, we've been around almost 10 years powering exchanges all around the world. We currently power about 24, a little over, exchanges globally, and we do that as a white label service provider. So you wouldn't know that it's us behind the screen and executing all of the trades, executing all of the orders, and most people don't know our clients. However, when we took a primary role in the Chivo wallet, which was around New Year's of last year, we were not participant in launching the Chivo wallet, but over time we took a more primary role in powering the core of the wallet. So around New Year's, the government actually made a big, very flattering announcement about working with Alpha Point. Hence, I can be on stage and share with you publicly. Most of our agreements with our clients don't actually kind of give us that opportunity. So it's really cool to be able to, interact publicly with what we do and how we do it. We serve as the core right now to all of the service providers that are supporting the Chivo ecosystem. So I think everybody saw the Athena ATM outside, and Athena powers the ATMs. And we have here one of our really close partners, Alex from River, and he powers the Lightning transactions, so all of the connections to the nodes, and he can go into it a little bit more. But we serve as a kind of central hub of all of the integrations. We also have AML and KYC, and everything down to email and SMS. Like when you log into your Chivo wallet, you get an SMS, right? So we power those integrations to make it just a seamless experience all the way through, as well as integrating with the financial providers on the kind of legacy financial systems such as banking and credit card, etc.
So it sounds like you're working with the banks, you're working with the El Salvadorian government, Chivo has their own team. Are there any other players involved?
Yeah, well, so there are service providers that I'm not at liberty to share on behalf of Chivo or the government. Chivo really is the company that is Chivo, right? And so a lot of the kind of facilitation and operations go under Chivo, for example. The call center and things like this is outside of Alpha Point, but supported by Alpha Point technology, and we provide tools for them to be able to work.
Great. So now, Alex, River, through River Lightning Services, provides all the lightning infrastructure. Can you tell us a little bit about RLS and how it's being used within Chivo?
Absolutely. So most people have heard of us through our consumer business in the United States, but we recently announced publicly this River Lightning Services business, which is this B2B Lightning API that powers products like Chivo. And the way this product works is a company like Chivo has an account at River Lightning Services and a very easy to use API. Think of like a Stripe, for example, for Lightning. And this API makes it very easy for an app like Chivo to process Lightning withdrawals and also generate invoices to receive Lightning deposits. And so our system powers all of that behind the scenes. So we're not involved with sort of like the day-to-day interaction with the customer. We just get calls to our system saying, make this Lightning withdrawal or generate this invoice, and we notify them, if an invoice has been paid. And sort of the value we add is we've been running Lightning infrastructure at River for 4 years. We've built a very robust automated system around node management, and so we abstract away all of that complexity. So a team like Chivo just needs to make sure that their RLS balance is topped up for processing withdrawals or swept away if the balance gets too high, and we just make it really easy for operations teams to use Lightning.
Very cool. So now, what's really exciting about Chivo is that it is the first national Bitcoin infrastructure, a nationwide infrastructure, which is an enormous project. And the first thing I think about national infrastructure is you got to work with the government, and to me that sounds very painful. I imagine there would be bureaucracy and red tape. But what has your experience been working with the El Salvadorian government?
The El Salvadoran government is very unique in that, I think everybody sees in the videos and things that Naive takes a very entrepreneurial, startup country type of approach, which has been a lot easier for us in many ways because, when a decision needs to be made, usually within a matter of hours or days, a decision is made. And I don't think that could be said for many governments anywhere in the world. And so really for us, in the process of iteration and improvement, that has been an incredible empowerment. At the same time, at the fundamental of any government is processes. So the amount of processes that, for example, even the technology has to go through in order to come to a confirmed and validated state is more than any kind of simple wallet. And I think that's a wonderful thing, actually. People often complain about it. Somebody sent me a video yesterday of like, oh, why do transactions take longer on Chivo than on normal tech? Well, it's because we have compliance and KYC and AML and processes that are protecting people from getting scammed or getting cheated or getting whatever, and we want them to be safe. So they go through processes of protection and validation. And I think, again, we as the technology provider, if it were just tech, it would be a lot easier and smoother and faster, but it wouldn't be as safe or as reliable or as widespread as Chivo Wallet is, right? Someone can trust their funds in the Chivo Wallet because we have protections and we have a call center. And it's like, if I use my, my blockchain.com or Bitcoin.com wallet and I send money or something happens, I really don't have a call center to call. And while people might rag on the call center, I see metrics every day and we work closely with them, and a tremendous, vast majority of issues get resolved, which couldn't be said for a vast majority of issues without it. So I would say, again, government of El Salvador is really efficient in the fact that we can iterate quickly and work rapidly with them. At the same time, the nature of any project on this scale has processes and protections that are inherently for the user, but impact the user experience, I think, in ways that people see as negative. At the same time, we kind of see from the inside that it's an opportunity to mature the entire industry.
If I could just add one thing. So I grew up in the DC area in the US, and so I'm very familiar with the federal government. And when we first started working on the project here, I didn't know what to expect, but I was incredibly surprised in a very pleasant way of how high caliber the people in the El Salvadorian government leading this project were. It felt like Tristan said, it felt like a startup. It felt like just high caliber people making decisions and executing, and made me kind of jealous.
Maybe we can import some of that attitude to the U.S. Fantastic. So really, let's get down to brass tacks here. What is happening in the wallet? It's been a year. We have data. How many users are there? What can you share? Tristan, we'll start with you. What can you share about what's actually happening day to day? How are people using this thing?
Yeah, so I mean, there's how many people are using it and how they're using it. To the first part of how many, I'm personally not at liberty to share numbers on behalf of Chivo or the government, but from our perspective in Alpha Point, what we see as really important is that the users that are on Chivo are actually using it more because they're seeing it is more reliable, and it's gone through these iterations of resilience and really kind of being more trustworthy to get a transaction through the first time, right? All of our integrations are getting better. KYC is getting better with, you know, the new KYC provider that came on or took a primary role at the same time as we did. You know, we really, it's light years ahead of where, you know, where the industry was 1 or 2 years ago is kind of amazing to see. And so the users that are in Chivo are using it more, and that tells us that we're very reliable, that we're increasingly trusted. The actual usage of it, we see the largest, well, actually, it's a bit of a mixed use in that there are a ton of P2P transactions, you know, people paying for pupusas over Lightning. You see a lot of those. And at the same time, people paying for groceries, and you know, every major merchant or retailer in the country has Bitcoin or Chivo. So we see a lot of that. We see a lot of use of the exchange. I mean, Chivo is famous for being, I think it's maybe, if not the only, then one of the only no-fee exchanges ever, right, or in the world. And that's something that the government provides as a public service, right? This is really a public utility. And so people use exchange a lot, people use the auto-convert a lot. You know, somebody wants to send dollars, somebody wants to HODL. It's super simple. It's actually one process, right? You auto-convert, and it's a little toggle on the app. And then ATM has actually seen an increase in transactions, as well as banks and credit cards. Really across the board, we see people understanding the breadth of the ecosystem a little bit more, and so they're doing a lot of the processes that maybe weren't just send receive. So that's cool to see.
So you're telling me everyone's day trading in Chivo? What? Everyone's day trading in Chivo wallet? Is that what you're saying?
Not everybody, but I mean, I have dollars and Bitcoin in my Chivo wallet, and when Bitcoin dropped, I moved it all to Bitcoin. It was like, okay, well, that's simple.
Cool. And now, Alex, you have some insight into the flow of Bitcoin since you're operating the Lightning infrastructure. Do you see most of that going peer-to-peer? Is most of that going into merchants? Do you know what type of merchants? Is it going a bit refill? Where do you see those flows? What insights do you have?
Yeah, so like Tristan said, I can't speak to specifics, but at a high level, we see a lot of flows going to both of those things. Both Lightning payment processors, you know, that you would know, which clearly indicates that people are using this for commerce, which is great to see. And then also to other Lightning wallets, indicating a lot of peer-to-peer transactions. So our system, we only see transactions when Bitcoin is exiting Chivo. I'm sure there's even more Chivo to Chivo transactions. But you know, we're seeing an increase in those trends, and luckily, you know, we pay a lot of attention to also payment success rates, because that impacts the user experience, especially on Lightning, because it's still kind of new and some of the kinks are still being worked out. But we're seeing, you know, 99% payment success rates, and working to just keep getting those up. But you know, it can be a little challenging when people are trying to pay these sort of long tail nodes, or pay a non-custodial wallet that might have, you know, might not work if they turn the screen off right after they initiate the payment. So there's like those sort of long tail of things that our sort of perspective on Lightning is even if something isn't our fault, it's our problem. So we're looking at ways to continue to like improve the payment success rates and get it as close to like the fiat world as possible.
Sure. And now, do you know, the average user, right? The wallet supports both on-chain payments and Lightning payments, right? What are the trends? What's more popular? And is there a sense that users are coming to understand that, like, oh, there's block time, I have to wait for a confirmation. Oh, Lightning payments faster, but there's this failure rate. Are they learning things? What's kind of that experience?
There have been actually a few conversations, especially in this conference, people that have different opinions on whether Lightning should be the primary or Bitcoin on-chain should be the primary. Right now, if you open your Chivo, you're going to see a Bitcoin address, it's an on-chain address, and then if you want to receive something in Lightning, you would have to, request Lightning. So that would be, it's kind of the second option. Lightning is the second option. And that was a deliberate choice made together, really, with Alpha Point, Chivo, and the government. And we all agree that really because Bitcoin is the more universal, universally known, universally recognized method of transfer, then that is really primarily the default. It's entirely possible that, over time, if we see some shift in the global paradigm, then that might shift because we always update the system to be on trend with what people enjoy. But we see a pretty good balance. Primarily, when something is a larger transaction, like a larger value transaction, I mean, it kind of reflects the way that Bitcoiners see it generally, right? A larger notional, more sats would go on chain, and then day to day, nobody's going to buy a 50-cent pupusa with the Bitcoin transaction, I mean, people do. And actually, Chivo does a very exciting thing that maybe not everybody knows. They actually cover most of the gas fees on behalf of Chivo transactions, right? So it's kind of a testament to the utility, like public utility part of Chivo, which is really cool to see.
So let's talk a little bit about the impact of the wallet on the people of El Salvador. The wallet itself is very different from any other wallet, especially a wallet that supports Lightning, right? There's ATM access, there's integration with banks, there's both dollars and Bitcoin within the product. How is this changing day-to-day life, even though it may not be impacting everybody right now day-to-day, but how is that impacting people today in some interesting use case? And how do you see that moving forward? How is that going to impact people's lives?
I see the biggest impact, honestly, and this actually is my more personal opinion. I think the biggest impact right now is seen on behalf of merchants because, I mean, merchants have a processing fee of around 5%. I mean, yesterday I was on a panel with the neobank team, and I went and spoke with them. They have MasterCard right now, integration, and that's amazing, and that's wonderful. And there's a 5% transaction fee. And all of the transactions that Chivo processes on behalf of merchants, right? We're in every super selectos around the country. So every time that somebody pays with Bitcoin or pays with Chivo, they actually don't lose 5% of the transaction value just in receiving their payment. It is actually a financially superior way to receive money than over credit card. And right now I see that as like the kind of biggest impact. As more countries adopt Bitcoin and as more cryptocurrencies become mainstream for payments and day-to-day transactions, I think we'll see more and more personal impact. Like I would with Venmo, every day in the U.S. But right now, I think that's probably the first thing that comes to mind.
And Alex, kind of what's your prediction? You're a big Lightning guy. Do you see Chivo Wallet being the Venmo of El Salvador? Do you see it more really taking market share from Visa and MasterCard? What's your prediction based on kind of what you're seeing and just your knowledge of the industry?
I think that the Lightning aspect of Chivo is on a very, steep upward trajectory. Like I said, Lightning's still early. There's still some rough edges certainly being worked out in the Lightning network, but the trajectory is very strong, and I do see that. I see Chivo actually playing, a major role in this worldwide ecosystem of financial apps that are all intercompatible because of this open network. So, now already a Cash App user can pay a Chivo user. And there's no proprietary rail, right? That's pretty amazing. So Chivo will be the hub for El Salvador, and who knows, maybe even, like regionally, I don't know what the plans are, but I could see it certainly is a leader, right, in a worldwide ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. I think many people may not know that a company like Cash App, if they wanted to operate in El Salvador, it's a large lift for a small region. So often a small country, they're not going to get the benefits of the larger countries. Companies always go large companies to small companies. So that interoperability is really fantastic. With only a minute left, I'd love each of you to kind of share what's been the most surprising thing you've learned in the past year about anything related to Chivo. Just like blow our minds with something.
Hard to blow your minds after, so much discussion, but I think the biggest lesson that I've learned and surprise that I've personally had is the polarity of people that are pro-Chivo and anti-Chivo. I think on the global landscape, unfortunately, if people are not part of the Bitcoin or crypto community, they just kind of default to like, that thing, it's I don't know, private or proprietary, even though obviously that's not true. I find it surprising that a lot of articles go out without consulting the people that power it. So the polarity of it, I think, is really the biggest surprise for me.
Alex?
For me, my biggest surprise was how fast they were able to ship. This thing went from idea to production in less time than it would take the U.S. government to complete an RFQ process.
That's impressive for a government to move that fast, but that's great when you have a relatively small size. So, well, thank you both very much. Thank you all for having us.
And thank you, Ken.